Do you suffer from insomnia? Do you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep? Then this video is for you. I'm Dr. Karin Drummond, owner of Drummond Chiropractic, and I'm going to be sharing with you the top ideas I share in my insomnia book. Now, if you are interested in more details or more information, you can go to my website, drummondchiropractic.com/insomnia, and all the information is on that webpage. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is in chapter 1 when I talk about some interesting sleep facts. I talk about the sleep cycle, like the hypothalamus, which is deep in the brain, is the center hub for the autonomic system for things like breathing or blinking, things you do that you don't even have to think about. The hypothalamus also acts like an internal clock, which is internally regulated, but is also affected by things like light and sound. And that's why as the sun is setting and you get that red glow, less intense blue light, that our brain knows it's time to prepare for sleep and starts releasing melatonin. And as the melatonin levels peak and as chemicals like adenosine break down over time, then we start to feel drowsy. And so we're able to go to sleep. And this is why when you look at your phone, which has an intense light, and if you don't wear glasses that block the blue light emitted by your phone, it's going to negatively impair your sleep because your brain's not going to be aware that the sun is setting. And if your brain isn't aware that the sun is setting, it's not going to be producing melatonin. And that's why if you're one to look at your phone at night and you're having trouble falling asleep, maybe try wearing red glasses or taking melatonin to see if that'll help you fall asleep. There's more about this in chapters 10 and 15 of the Combat Insomnia book. Chapter 2 talks about the different kinds of insomnia. There's primary insomnia that can be due to poor sleep conditions or stress, and secondary insomnia are due to things like medications you may be taking that's impairing your ability to sleep, or medical conditions like you have a rotator cuff tear and every time you roll into that shoulder you wake up because of the pain. That would be considered secondary. There's sleep onset insomnia, meaning you're having trouble falling asleep. There's sleep maintenance insomnia, where you're having trouble staying asleep. There's acute insomnia, meaning it's only lasted a couple weeks or less than a few months. Or chronic insomnia is when you have trouble sleeping for more than 3 months. And in chapter 3, I warn that your insomnia may be a sign of a more serious condition. And this is why I always stress, before you follow any advice from any video, check with your healthcare provider to make sure it's appropriate for your specific condition, and hopefully that's one of us here at Drummond Chiropractic, because you don't want to be trying any tricks or herbs to help you sleep when in fact you have something more serious that needs medical attention. And in chapter 4, I talk about sleep hygiene. I've already talked about how the sun can affect your sleep cycle and the light effect to make sure you're not looking at bright lights right before you fall asleep. And with an interesting fact is, before the advent of artificial light, we would go to sleep typically later in the summer because those were longer days and have a short sleep, but then we would have a nap in the middle of the day to avoid that high noon sun. And in the winter, when the nights were longer, we would fall asleep way early, but then we'd wake up in the middle of the night, stoke the fire, maybe have some fun, and then fall back asleep. So if you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night, this could be part of your regular rhythm. The trick is to avoid overhead light or bright light. Again, wearing those red glasses can help if you want to read some text on your phone, but make sure you avoid anything overly stimulating and maybe use that time to practice relaxation techniques so you can fall back asleep. Your room should be dark and cool. And I'm sorry to say, if you have trouble sleeping and you have pets, you shouldn't let your pets sleep with you. They may be the ones interrupting your sleep. In chapter 5, I talk about pillows and mattresses. Now, I already have a video on pillows. And as for mattresses, my general advice is get an extra firm mattress because that helps support your spine, but get a foam topper, that way it's not so hard on the joints. My favorite mattress is the Innate Sleep System. And to learn more about this mattress, check out my website. In chapter 6, I talk about sleeping pills and why I believe they are not a good, viable option, especially long term. To learn more, check out my website. In chapter 7, I talk about relaxation techniques. My favorite is just focusing on the breath. When your mind is thinking about all the things you're worrying about, you can't say, stop thinking about it, because what are you going to do? You're going to keep thinking about it. Like if I tell you, don't think of a pink elephant, what did you just think about? So instead of fighting those thoughts, let them come, but also let them go and return your thoughts to your breath. Breathing out twice as long as you breathe in is a good way to relax the body and the mind. Another trick is if you're worrying about forgetting something in the morning, have a notepad with a pen next to your bed. That way you can just roll over, write down your thoughts that you don't want to forget. That way you know you won't forget, and now you can relax, focus on the breath, and then hopefully your mind will be calm enough to fall asleep. In Chapter 8, I talk about how snoring can impact your sleeping. And there are sleep studies you can do to determine if you need a machine like a CPAP machine. Machines like this, they can be game changers. In Chapter 9, I talk about rest therapy, restricted environmental stimulation therapy. It's also known as flotation therapy. In this therapy, you lay in water, and because it's just a little bit of water, it's about 100 gallons of water, but it has 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts. It's like the Dead Sea, so you literally float in the water. You don't have to keep yourself up at all. And it's in a dark room or in a pod that keeps out the light, and it's at a temperature that's the same temperature as your skin. So effectively, you see nothing, you feel nothing, you're completely relaxed, and that way your brain can completely relax. Like right now, hopefully your brain's in a beta or at least an alpha state where you're awake and hopefully paying attention. And if you're asleep, your brain is more in a delta brainwave state. But when you're in a completely relaxed state but still awake, that's the theta brainwave state. And that's when the brain can heal. And this is why it's really good therapy for a lot of different conditions. But if you're sleep deprived, I guarantee if you're in a flotation device, you'll probably fall asleep if you need it. So I tell people that are sleep deprived, try flotation therapy. In Chapter 10, I talk about supplements that might help you fall asleep or stay asleep. Now, I've already talked about melatonin. Remember, that's what the brain starts making when the sun is setting to prepare your body for sleep. Well, if you're finding yourself in a lot of light and you're finding it difficult to avoid light, maybe taking melatonin might help you fall asleep. Another thing I talk about is CBD oil. Now, CBD is cannabinoids, which are found in all cells in our body. And if our cells are deficient in endocannabinoids, then they're not going to be functioning properly, or at least not optimally. And can you see how this can impair our ability to sleep or have other symptoms? And this is why when people take CBD oil, they either are like, that was a miracle drug because it helped all their ailments, and other people, they have no effect because they weren't deficient in endocannabinoids. And there's no really way to test it other than just to take it and see if it helps your condition. Other things that people can try are valerian root, because that's kind of like a natural Valium, kava kava, because it helps muscles relax, passion flower, because that helps with anxiety. So if anxiety is keeping you from sleeping, that might help. And there's a lot of different herbs out there. And again, talk to your healthcare provider to see which one's appropriate for your specific condition, or even if it's something that's worthy of trying. In Chapter 11, I talk about minerals and vitamins that might help, like calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D are really good for relaxing muscles. So if you have muscle tension at night, that's impairing your sleep, that might help. Maybe you can try vitamin C if you have muscle aches, because vitamin C can help with that. It's also good for your immune system. So if it's a sickness that's impairing your ability to sleep, vitamin C might be worthy of trying. In Chapter 12, I share things that you should avoid doing right before bed, like exercising or drinking caffeine. In Chapter 13, it talks about how being overweight can be impacting your sleep and my advice in that arena. Chapter 14 talks about different foods that can be impairing your ability to sleep. Chapter 15 talks about exercise and sleep. In Chapter 16, I talk about devices that can help you sleep. One device I forgot to talk about was weighted blankets. They can help you stay asleep. I've already talked about how red glasses can help you fall asleep. There are also devices like noise machines. If you have noise pollution in your sleep environment, a noise machine might help drown those sounds out. And if your snoring is mild, maybe breathing strips can help. Remember, snoring can affect your sleep. In Chapters 17 and 18, I talk about why you should see a chiropractor if you have insomnia. I'm totally biased there, but even if we can't help you with your insomnia, we can help direct you to a healthcare provider that can. Chapter 19 talks about cognitive therapy and how it can help with your sleep. And in Chapter 20, I share how to find the perfect healthcare provider for your specific needs. I hope this has been helpful, and if it has, please share with others that you think it could be helpful too. And you know we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And until next time, stay well.